Revenge films.
My name is Abby. I'm an SAHM, living with my husband James and our 3-year-old daughter Lily. On the surface, James and I seem like a happy couple because we've never had any major fights, but there's one thing I just can't come to terms with. He won't let me visit my parents. I always thought I'd be able to go back and visit my family from time to time, even after getting married. My parents live in the next prefecture, so it's not too far, but as an SAHM, I don't have much financial freedom. I couldn't force the issue, so I settled for phone calls every now and then. Still, I figured I'd at least be able to go back for New Year's. It was our first New Year's after getting married, and I nervously asked him, would it be okay if I spent the holidays with my family? But he immediately shut me down. He said,
New Year's is for my family. You married into my household.
I gave up that year, albeit reluctantly. Soon after, I found out I was pregnant. When our daughter was born the following year, my parents were overjoyed and couldn't wait to meet their first grandchild. But when I asked James if we could take Lily to see them, he said,
Your parents' house is too far. Not happening.
I tried again and again over the years, but he kept saying no, like it was the most natural thing in the world. Still, I couldn't give up, so I kept asking. Then, around the time Lily turned 3, I was on the phone with my mom when she suddenly started coughing. She said, It's been like this for a while. I told her to see a doctor, and it turned out she had developed asthma. It wasn't life-threatening, thankfully, but it scared me. I started to feel a growing fear of how quickly time was passing, and how my mother was aging without ever having met her granddaughter. On every call, she'd say, Photos are nice, but I really want to see Lily in person. So I decided to talk to James again. When he came home from work, I told him that I wanted to have a serious conversation, but before I could even get the words out, he cut me off and said,
Let me guess, you want to visit your family again? I already told you that's not happening.
I tried to stay calm, but I couldn't hold back. Why not? Of course my parents want to meet their granddaughter. She's 3 years old now, and they've never even seen her. James just scoffed and said,
Lily has my parents. What, are you still hung up on your old family or something? You married into my family.
I was stunned and said, Old family? My parents are still my family. Just because I married you doesn't mean I have to cut them out of my life. That's when he lost it.
A wife is supposed to serve her husband's parents. What kind of woman keeps thinking only about her own family? Just forget about them already.
The moment he said that, I thought of my mom's voice on the phone, saying how much she wanted to meet Lily, and I couldn't stop the tears from falling. James glared at me.
Don't think crying's gonna get you your way. You're so spoiled. When are you gonna grow up and be a real wife?
I started to realize that James and I didn't see eye to eye. That thought lingered in my mind, and before long, the New Year's holidays rolled around. As usual, we went to his parents' house to celebrate. His older sister always bosses me around, barking orders like, do this and take care of that, as if I'm her personal maid. She doesn't even try to take care of her own things, doing her laundry, preparing her meals. Everything ends up falling on me. She constantly says, You're the wife now. It's your job to do all this. Treating me like I'm there to serve her just because I'm married into the family. My in-laws always tell her off, saying things like, you can do those things yourself, but she never listens. My mother-in-law always apologizes to me on her behalf, saying, I'm so sorry, dear. She's just always been like this. But James, instead of supporting me, he takes her side. He says,
You need to respect my family's way of doing things.
Like it's some kind of commandment. That day, like always, his sister lazed around and then suddenly said, I'm hungry. Go to the convenience store and get me something. Without even moving from her spot. Later in the evening, while I was in the kitchen helping my mother-in-law prepare dinner, James's phone rang. It was one of his childhood friends. The moment the call ended, he turned to me and said,
I'm heading out for drinks.
And then he just left. In fact, his sister had been drinking since the afternoon and passed out in her room. That left me, my in-laws, and Lily in the living room. Sensing the rare moment of quiet, I decided it was time to finally speak up. I told them everything. How James won't let me visit my parents, how I've been struggling with the way we think so differently, and how I've started questioning our relationship. My in-laws looked at each other in shock. Then my mother-in-law said something that stopped me cold. Actually, James told us that you're estranged from your parents, that you don't want to go back. I was speechless. That's not true at all, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. After a long pause, my father-in-law looked me in the eye and said,
Abby, take this and go visit your family now.
Then he handed me some money. Just then the living room door suddenly swung open, and to my surprise, James's older sister, who had supposedly been asleep, came in. She glared at me and snapped. You've got to be kidding! If you leave, I won't be able to relax during the holidays! Clearly, she had overheard something and was now trying to stop me from going. In that moment, something clicked. I turned to her and asked, Did you say something to James? Something you shouldn't have? She scoffed. Huh? I didn't say anything unnecessary. I just taught him how a wife should behave. That's when James's usually calm and soft-spoken father suddenly shouted.
What did you say to him? Tell me right now!
His daughter flinched slightly, then mumbled. I told him that after marriage, a woman should cut ties with her old family and devote herself to her husband's. Those words set him off. He picked up the phone and called James immediately. The moment he heard how furious his father was, he rushed back home. When he arrived, his father made James and his sister sit down formally in front of him. He was absolutely livid. His father shouted,
What do you think a wife is, huh? Have I ever stopped your mother from living her own life?
As it turns out, James's sister had been feeding him manipulative nonsense for years, just so she could have an easy, stress-free New Year's while I handled everything. She had essentially brainwashed him into believing that I should always spend the holidays at their house serving them. But even after learning the truth, my feelings for James didn't change. The damage was already done. I couldn't erase the pain from all those years he'd stolen from me, the years I was kept away from my own family. Thanks to my father-in-law, I was finally able to visit my parents again. When we arrived, they were overjoyed to meet their granddaughter for the first time. Watching them hold Lily in their arms, I made up my mind. I was going to leave James. When I told my parents everything, they welcomed me back with open arms. You can always come home, they said without hesitation. After spending a peaceful New Year's at my parents' house, I returned to the home I once shared with James, this time with divorce papers in hand. He had been living alone ever since that night, after being kicked out by his own parents. When he saw me at the door, he looked like he'd been waiting, full of regret. I'm so sorry, he said, his voice shaking. But I couldn't forgive him. I handed him the divorce papers without a word. His face went pale.
What? No, you're not serious, are you? Please, I'm begging you. You can visit your family anytime. I swear, I'll change. I promise.
But my mind was made up. I left the completed paperwork on the table, packed my things, and walked out. He chased after me, apologizing over and over. I didn't look back. I went home, my real home. Even after all that, James refused to go through with the divorce, so I turned to his parents for help. They were clearly saddened by the situation, but after hearing me out, they said they understood completely. They said, given everything you've been through, this is only natural. With their encouragement, James finally agreed to the divorce and promised to pay child support every month. That was the end of it. We were officially done. As for James and his older sister, they were never forgiven by their parents. From that point on, neither of them was welcome at the family home. James, now alone and without a family to turn to, would sometimes call and say,
I want to see Lily.
But I'd respond, remember when my parents said the same thing and you refused them every time? Now you know how that feels. Then I'd hang up the phone. I'm sure that deep down, he finally understood just a little of what he had put me through. As for his older sister, she had been living off monthly allowances from her parents, but after everything that happened, they cut her off. I heard she's now struggling financially, even taking on debt just to get by. And me? I'm living back home with my daughter and my parents, working part-time at a local bakery. Compared to the life I had, constantly being controlled by James, this life feels peaceful, even happy. Honestly, I've never felt more free. I know one thing for sure. I never want anything to do with James again.
How was today's video? If you enjoyed it, please subscribe, like, and leave a comment. Stay tuned for more.